Chapter 4. A Fated Encounter. I looked up at Alan as he escorted me through the halls of the college. "So, what's this surprise?" "You'll see," he said as he led me out into a beautiful garden that seemed to swirl with colored plants and a large variety of flowers. We continued through to a nearby building and made our way through the quiet halls, our footsteps echoing ahead of us. We reached a door that was labeled as a meeting room, and Alan opened it, motioning for me to go inside. I stepped through the doorway and immediately dropped to my knees. The sight that greeted me was all of the fated gathered together. Serena, smiling with her blue eyes and golden hair, Triana with her short black hair and glittering green eyes, Preya with her wide smile, brown eyes and dreadlocks, and Farin with his brown hair and beard, brown eyes and happy smile. I began crying with joy immediately, even as Farin rushed over to pick me up and crush me in a powerful hug. The others surrounded me and welcomed me to the college and expressed how much they'd missed me. Of all the ways I could have imagined this day going, I couldn't think of anything better. I hugged Farin tight, burying my face in his chest as I cried joyous tears. "I can't believe you're here." Farin held me close and kissed the top of my head. "When Alan told us you were here and you'd be coming to the college, we wanted to contact you right away. Alan thought this might be a better way to surprise you." We all agreed. Triana laughed and came over to rest a hand on my shoulder. One big reunion. I pulled away from Farin reluctantly, only just enough to look at the other and smile with teary eyes. "It's a splendid surprise. I'm so happy to see all of you." "It's good to see you as well," Serena smiled down at me, clearly holding back her laughter. "But what are you wearing? You look like you got your dress from a Halloween outlet." I chuckled and pulled at the skirt of my dress as if to show it off. "This is my witch robe. I rather like it. But if you must know, my parents got it for me as a joke, thinking I would never earn it. And if I did, they wanted me to look like a clown." "What sort of ridiculousness is that?" Farin growled, his protective nature coming through. "Why would they do something like that to their own child?" I smiled up at him as I placed a hand on his chest to calm him. "Don't concern yourself over it. It doesn't even matter anymore. I'm away from them, and I'm now a ward of Duke Mortison. I don't have to concern myself with them for a long time now." "I know the whole story," Alan said as he shook his head. "Rumors abound about the Sylvias and the treatment of their eldest child. Nothing was confirmed, of course, but the business with Duke Mortison was enough to cement the rumors as mostly true. I'll leave it to you to decide when it's best to tell everyone. But had I known it was you, I would not have hesitated to have offered to help." "Thank you, Alan," I replied gratefully. "And when I'm settled, I'll try to explain things." Preya looked at me, her expression suspicious. "That doesn't make any sense, Merida. After all we've been through, I wouldn't expect you to simply accept abuse for any amount of time. With your abilities, you should have been able to be safe. Why didn't you use them?" I blushed, embarrassed that Preya would point out the obvious, and not wanting to admit how I'd let my optimism and general trust of people get the best of me. "Let's not focus on the negative right now," Triana smiled. "Today is a day we should only focus on the positive. Preya, perhaps it's time you show her your surprise?" Preya seemed to wrestle with what she wanted more in the moment, to get my answer or to show me her surprise. In the end, joy won out over suspicion. Her face brightened and she took my hand. "I've prepared something for your arrival. Come." We all followed Preya through a set of large double doors to a room whose air was filled with the aroma of food. There was a large table, and behind it were several smaller tables with dozens of different foods in silver trays, bowls, pans, and pots. A handful of servants smiled and genuflected as we entered the room and took our seats. My smile encompassed the whole of my face as I stared wide-eyed at the delectable food on offer. You cooked? Tapriya laughed. I thought there was no better way than to help you feel at home here at the college than to offer you a home-cooked meal. Alan laughed as he watched my reaction. I haven't seen that look on her face since that first time we all met back in Ostagar and she smelled the cornbread you'd made. Please tell me there's cornbread, I gasped. Tapriya waved to the servants who brought out plates of food filled with cranberry sauce, baked macaroni and cheese, seasoned steak, green peas, and of course, my long-lost cornbread. I stared at the plate in awe, mouth watering at the sight of the food. I fidgeted in my seat and wanted to begin digging in, but held myself back for decorum's sake. Alan snickered. Look at her. She wants to stuff her cheeks like a starving hamster. Didn't Duke Mortison feed you? Farron asked with a laugh. Of course he did, but Tapriya's food is the closest thing any of us has to a homemade meal, I replied as I swatted his shoulder playfully. That's fair, actually, Triana chuckled. Tapriya's cooking is the only time any of us can have food made for us, as it was made back in our first lives. My eyes widened with surprise as I looked around the room at the servants, wondering what Triana was thinking, admitting that we'd lived multiple lives in front of them. The others shared a look of confusion before Serena chuckled as she caught on. Ah, I'm guessing you've never had to use a meeting room. Rooms like this are enchanted, so that only those seated can understand what's being said by anyone else seated at the table. As far as the servants are concerned, we're speaking gibberish. It's why I had to motion to them to bring our plates, Tapriya added. If I hadn't, they'd have just been waiting for some kind of instruction. So we can talk freely without fear of secrets leaving the room, Farron smiled and reached over to pat my hand reassuringly. I nodded in understanding. I suppose I've never needed something like that. It's fine, Merida, Alan smiled, his infectious positivity seeping into me. We'll help you catch up on things where your family failed to do so. But I think I speak for everyone when I ask, how do you plan to become Queen of the Academy? I arched a confused brow as I looked at Alan and then at the others. They all had expectant expressions, as if awaiting the details of a plan I had never made. I'm not sure what you're talking about, I confessed. I had no plans to become Queen of the Academy. In all honesty, my knowledge about the Academy's royal court is cursory at best. My only concern when coming here was simply to get away from my family. I've no ambition to become Queen of the Academy. The lot of them as if they had been anticipating a grand Machiavellian scheme. Their body language deflated, and looks of confusion and disappointment replaced their excitement. Ah, Serena exclaimed. I understand. Since you weren't knowledgeable about the intricacies of the court, and your focus was on getting away from your family, you didn't concern yourself with planning on rising in the ranks of the Academy. I'm sure now that you're safe and among friends, you'll be coming up with something. The others' moods brightened at this, and their smiles returned. I looked at them, a bit of nervousness and embarrassment mixing in my expression. No, I simply hadn't wished to gain any sort of notoriety while I was here. I was rather hoping to avoid bringing attention to myself and simply enjoy my years at the Academy. Though my witch's robe did make me stand out, and Alan's taking me from the court has likely garnered more attention on me than I would have preferred. So, no grand adventure or push to take the top spot? Tapriya asked, surprised. That's unlike you. It is not, I protested. The times I've done all that was when the world needed it. This world seems perfectly fine apart from the normal issues every society suffers. And I rather fancy not having to go through all the planning and manipulation, and just once be a quiet little nobody who gets passed by and ignored for being short and plain of face. You're anything but plain of face, love. Farron gave me a reassuring smile. A biased opinion if ever there was one, I snickered up at him. It was true, though. I may have been a princess, Empress, Caesar, and more. But I'd never been a great beauty. As far as looks were concerned, Triana had me beat, and Serena put us both to shame. If it hadn't been for my positions or talents, I'm certain I wouldn't have made as much of an impact in my former lives as I had. People might appreciate good ideas and change for the better, but they appreciate them more from people with power and influence. Honestly, I'm surprised, Serena admitted. When we found out you were here, we started preparing every contact we had to be ready to make good on any request you might need. I genuinely thought you'd want to start an American Revolution, Priya laughed. Triana sighed, and I was so looking forward to wearing a tricorn hat. Do you all really see me as some power-hungry tyrant? I asked, both surprised and shocked by the thought. Not power-hungry per se. Alan sighed reluctantly. You're certainly no tyrant, love, Farron chuckled. I stared at Alan. What do you mean per se? You do have a track record, Priya snickered. Of helping, I protested. Machiavelli would be able to take lessons from you at this point, Serena smirked. You've probably set some sort of cosmic precedence on how many times you can become a ruler. I am not a monster, I groaned. The others looked at each other for a moment before all turning their gazes on me. You all think I'm a monster? I gasped, horrified that they might believe so. Well, Serena paused. You're not a tyrant, but you're certainly no saint. I've seen you do some questionable things to achieve your goals. And you don't exactly shy away from an ends meet the needs policy, Priya cleared her throat. Alan smirked at me. I honestly don't care how you go about things. I like it when you're ruthless. But as far as power is concerned, you're an apex monster. I'm fairly sure Lovecraftian gods have nightmares about you. I bit my tongue at that particular joke for more than one reason. No reason to tell them certain things if I didn't have to. Even people who had lived as many lifetimes as they had didn't need to know certain things actually existed. I sighed and shook my head. Well, you don't have to worry about any of that this time around. This time I just want to live a nice, quiet life, tucked away as a small cog in the grand machinery of the aristocracy. At best, I'd like to be known as a reliable mage, but no one of real note. Triana gave a gentle smile, understanding the desire to live a life without the pressure of great things looming over me. I, for one, am happy for your choice, Merida. If anyone has earned a simple, peaceful life, it's you. Indeed, Farron said as he squeezed my hand. I think I can vouch for us all when I say we won't do anything that will bring attention to you. It will be dull, Alan sighed dramatically, but we'll respect your wishes. Priya nodded in agreement. I think it will be nice for us to be able to relax and not carry the weight of the world on our shoulders for once. I smiled at my group of friends. They had always been my emotional anchors and served me best when they helped to ground me. This time, however, it was I who grounded them. It was an amusing change of pace. I began to dig into the delicious food that Priya had prepared for us, happy to have friends who support me in doing as little as possible for once. I was going to take this life to relax.